Hi, I'm Sarah Walker, the granddaughter they tried to erase. At the hospital, while my grandfather lay in the ICU fighting for his life, my parents secretly drained every cent I'd saved for him. $1,200,000 gone in a single afternoon. Money meant for the surgery that could keep him alive. When I confronted them, my sister Amanda smirked. "We need that money more than he does," she said, like it was a joke. My father didn't even look at me. "He should just die and stop wasting resources," he muttered. I stood frozen, heart pounding, every muscle screaming to move, but they had no idea what I was about to do next. And then, bang! The front door flew open. The slam of the front door still echoed when I turned. A man in a dark jacket stepped inside, his boots leaving faint marks on the tile. He didn't glance at me, his eyes locked straight on my father, Gerald, lounging in his recliner like nothing in the world could touch him. "Gerald Walker?" the man asked, his voice steady, clipped. My father's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. "Daniel Briggs, process server?" the man continued, flashing a leather wallet with a badge before handing over a thick envelope. "Acknowledgement of receipt, please." "Process server." Amanda leaned forward, her curiosity obvious. "You can leave that with me," she offered. "It goes to Gerald," Daniel replied, firm. My father took the envelope with a slow, deliberate motion, as if the paper itself was a threat. He didn't open it right away. His eyes flicked to my mother, Linda, whose expression was a tight mask of warning. "What is this?" Amanda asked, already impatient. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "Formal notification of a pending financial investigation, concerning withdrawals tied to a protected savings account. Preliminary only, not a lawsuit." I felt my stomach clench. I knew exactly which account he meant. "That's ridiculous," my mother scoffed. "We're family. Families take care of each other." "By emptying the account meant for Grandpa's surgery?" I shot back, keeping my voice as level as I could. Amanda's eyes glittered with mockery. "You're overreacting. It's family money. You're not the only one who cares about him. If you cared," I said, "you wouldn't have touched a cent of that fund." She shrugged. "He's old. He'd tell us to be practical." Daniel didn't move, didn't blink. "Just so we're clear, Mr. Walker, this notice documents the withdrawal pattern and the parties involved. If the matter escalates, you'll receive further service." My father's lips pressed into a thin line. "We haven't done anything wrong. Then you've got nothing to worry about," Daniel said calmly. He set a small business card on the coffee table and stepped toward the door. But as he passed me, his voice dropped low enough for only me to hear. "You might want to talk to the bank again," he said. Something about the way it was processed, off the standard path. And then he was gone. I stood there, my pulse loud in my ears, the envelope still in my father's grip. My mother looked at me like I'd just brought a plague into the house. Amanda's smirk returned, sharp and satisfied. They thought I'd walk away. They thought I'd let them strip everything from the man who had raised me, taught me to fight for what mattered. They had no idea. By the time I reached my car, the late October wind had sharpened into something colder. I sat behind the wheel, staring at the slip of Daniel's business card on the passenger seat. Talk to the bank again. I already knew what I'd find, but part of me needed to see the numbers for myself. Halfway home, my phone rang the hospital's number. "Ms. Walker? This is Dr. Keating. Your grandfather's condition is holding for now, but I need to prepare you. Surgery may have to happen sooner than we discussed. How soon?" My fingers tightened around the wheel. "Within the week." I promised her I'd be ready, even though my chest felt like someone had set a weight on it. When we hung up, I pulled into my driveway, grabbed my laptop from the back seat, and went straight to the kitchen table. The login screen for my savings account blinked at me like a dare. I entered my details, heart pounding. Balance, 0. I refreshed the page. Once, twice, 3 times. The same result? A tight, almost metallic taste filled my mouth. This wasn't some random hack, this was calculated. I called the bank immediately. "Withdrawn yesterday afternoon, ma'am," the customer service rep said, her tone unnervingly calm. "Authorized by your co-signers." "I don't have co-signers." "Yes, ma'am. Gerald and Linda Walker." The room seemed to shrink around me. The co-signer line, I'd added them nearly 20 years ago when I was a broke college student just trying to open the account. I'd never taken them off. I hung up and called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, her tone casual, like she was talking about laundry. "Oh, that money? We needed it for something more important." "More important?" My voice cracked with disbelief. "Grandpa's in the ICU. That money was for him." Amanda's voice chimed in from the background, sweet and poisonous. "We need it more than he does. He's had a good run." "Don't be dramatic," my mother interrupted. "We're family, we share what we have." I ended the call before the words boiling in my throat came spilling out. The next morning, I walked into the downtown branch, the cold air following me through the glass doors. Susan Clayton, the branch manager, looked up from her desk. Her polite smile faltered when I slid my account statement in front of her. "I want a breakdown of this withdrawal. $1.2 million. She scanned the numbers. Withdrawals like this require in-person authorization, usually from the account holder. "I didn't authorize it," I said flatly. Her brow furrowed. "I'm not supposed to access security footage without a formal request. But if you're saying this was unauthorized..." She stood, gesturing for me to follow. My pulse quickened. Somewhere in that footage, I knew, was the first proof I'd need to rip their lies apart. Susan led me down a narrow hallway to a small, windowless room that smelled faintly of coffee and dust. A single monitor sat on the desk, its black screen reflecting the tight set of my jaw. She tapped a few keys. "Let's check the internal cameras from the teller desk and private offices." The grainy footage flickered to life. My heart lurched. Amanda sat in the banker's chair, pen in hand, signing the withdrawal slip like she owned the place. Her eyes flicked to her phone between strokes, as casual as if she were grocery shopping. Beside her, Gerald leaned back in his chair, legs crossed, his smile slow and smug. Susan froze the frame. "That's your account number, and that's the signature line. But it's not your handwriting, is it?" I didn't answer right away. The loops were too neat, the slant forced like someone trying to copy letters they didn't understand. It was a forgery, and a bad one. "You want a copy?" Susan asked quietly. "Yes." While she printed it, I stared at the paused image on the screen. Gerald's hand rested on the table, relaxed, like he'd done this before. Amanda's expression had that sharp, satisfied curve I'd seen the night she told me, "Grandpa had a good run." Susan slid the copy toward me. "If this becomes a legal matter, our compliance team may have to testify." Understood. I signed the security log for the footage, my pen hesitating just a fraction before the end of my signature, a quirk I'd inherited from Grandpa Henry. Seeing that tiny ink blot at the tail of my name filled me with an odd steadiness. I gathered the papers, slid them into my bag, and headed for the lobby. Jacob, a young teller with a shy smile, was walking past. Without breaking stride, he slipped a folded slip of paper into my palm. I didn't look at it until I was outside, the wind slicing across my cheeks. 4 words, rushed handwriting. "Check the safe deposit." A shiver traced my spine. The safe deposit box, Grandpa's, the one I'd been to countless times as a kid. The one with his war medals, family letters, and whatever else he trusted the world not to touch. If Amanda and Gerald had been there recently, there'd be a record. And if they'd taken something, maybe they'd left a trail. I tucked the note deep into my coat pocket. The footage was proof of theft, but the box might hold something bigger, something that would make it impossible for them to hide behind family excuses. Tomorrow, I would find out. The next afternoon, I was back at the bank, this time at the older branch with the stone columns out front. The air inside was cooler, quieter, like the building knew it was keeping secrets. A woman in her 60s with glasses perched on the tip of her nose looked up from the counter. Her name tag read, "Evelyn. Safe deposit access?" she asked. "Yes, Sarah Walker." I slid my ID across. She typed something into her computer, then pulled out a thick, leather-bound ledger. Her finger traced the page, then stopped. "You were last here nearly a year ago," she said, glancing at me over the rims of her glasses. "But there was another visit 3 days ago." My stomach tightened. "Who?" Her eyes flicked to the screen again. "Amanda Walker, of course." Evelyn led me down a narrow hallway lined with faded carpet, the scent of metal and old paper hanging in the air. The vault door groaned open, revealing rows of boxes stacked into the walls. She used the master key, I used mine. The drawer slid out with a metallic scrape. I carried it to the small table and lifted the lid. On top was an envelope, thick cream paper sealed with wax. Grandpa's handwriting curved across the front. For my granddaughter, only when the time is right. My throat went tight. I traced the letters but didn't open it, not yet. Beneath it, a neat stack of receipts. I unfolded one. My eyes froze on the numbers. Gold bullion purchases dated the same day the 1.2M vanished. The box itself was empty of gold. I dug deeper, my fingers closing around a small black velvet case. I knew it before I opened it, Grandpa's gold cufflinks. He wore them to every wedding, every funeral. Inside, there was only one cufflink. In the space where the other should be was a crumpled scrap of paper. I smoothed it out. In shaky, uneven ink, it listed a single name and an address, a storage facility in a part of town I barely knew. Amanda wasn't careless. If she'd left this, it was either deliberate or she hadn't noticed it was there. Evelyn cleared her throat gently. Technically, without the joint keyholder's consent, you shouldn't remove documents. I slipped the scrap into my pocket anyway. Noted. She didn't stop me, but I caught the flicker of curiosity in her eyes. Back in the lobby, the sunlight felt harsher, almost accusing. I gripped the scrap of paper in my coat pocket like it might vanish if I loosened my hand. If Amanda moved the gold there, maybe it wasn't gone yet. And if it was still in reach, I intended to take it back. The address on the scrap of paper took me past the city's edge, where the streets thinned into cracked asphalt and boarded-up storefronts. The storage facility sat at the far end of a frontage road, its corrugated metal doors dented and sun-faded, like it had been holding its breath for decades. Inside the small office, a man in a flannel shirt sat behind a counter littered with ledgers and coffee mugs. His name tag read Tom Harris. "Afternoon," he said without looking up. "Here to pay or to empty?" "I'm here to access a unit," I replied, sliding the paper toward him. He squinted at the address, then at me. "Not without the renter or a court order." I reached into my bag and pulled out the lone gold cufflink. This belonged to the person who rented it, my grandfather, Henry Walker. Tom's gaze lingered on the cufflink for a long beat, then his shoulders eased. "Haven't seen one of these in years." Without another word, he grabbed a ring of keys and gestured for me to follow. The unit was near the back. The door groaned as it rolled up, releasing a breath of stale air and dust. Rows of wooden chests were stacked inside like a strange treasure hoard, some marked with shipping labels from cities I'd never visited. Against the far wall sat a rickety table piled with leather-bound ledgers. I flipped one open, page after page of transactions, routed through unfamiliar company names, the amounts twisting my stomach. When I reached to close it, my hand caught on something beneath the table, a loose panel. I pried it open and found a small black camera case, a bundle of SD cards wrapped with a rubber band. Each card was labeled with a date. One date made my pulse skip, the same day the 1.2M disappeared. I didn't wait. Sitting in my car, laptop balanced on the console, I slid the card in. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Amanda at a table across from Gerald, both smiling, a man in a dark suit beside them. Papers slid one way, a heavy case the other. Then the man's hospital ID badge caught the light. Not a corporate logo, the same hospital where Grandpa lay in the ICU. Amanda's voice carried through the tinny audio. "He'll never know until it's too late." I replayed it twice, bile rising higher each time. If Amanda and Gerald were working with someone inside the hospital, this wasn't just theft. It was something deeper. And whatever it was, it had just moved dangerously close to Grandpa's bed. By the time I pulled into the hospital lot, the sky had gone that deep steel gray that promises rain. The footage from the storage unit kept looping in my head. Amanda's smirk, Gerald's easy posture, the hospital badge flashing like a warning flare. I headed straight for the ICU. Marjorie, one of the night nurses, was updating a chart outside Grandpa's room. She gave me a curious look. "You look like you're counting cards," she said softly. "I've got reason to think someone connected to this hospital has been in contact with my family, in ways they shouldn't be." Her brow furrowed. "That's a big claim. I'm not ready to go public with it yet. But if you notice anyone out of place, I'd appreciate knowing." She gave a small nod. I'll keep my eyes open. I'd barely taken a seat in the waiting area when the sound of heels clicked down the hallway. Amanda appeared in the doorway, cradling a bouquet of white lilies. Her smile was bright, polished the kind she wore when she wanted everyone to think she was the perfect daughter. Well, she said, stepping into the room. You didn't tell me you'd be here tonight. Didn't think you needed to know, I replied, my eyes fixed on the flowers. Those from the same place you've been storing other things? I asked quietly. Her smile faltered for just a second. I don't know what you're implying. You do, I said. And you know I've seen it. She stepped closer, her perfume cloying in the stale ICU air. Her voice dropped to a whisper, sharp enough to cut. You can't protect him forever. Then she set the flowers beside Grandpa's bed and brushed past me without another glance. My jaw ached from holding back what I wanted to say. Instead, I crossed the hall to Marjorie. Do you know a nurse tall, mid-40s, dark hair, works nights? Her eyes narrowed. Why? I think I saw him in a place he shouldn't have been. She hesitated, glanced around, then leaned closer. If it's who I'm thinking of, he's on the night rotation. Quiet type, keeps to himself. You might check the staff parking logs. Security keeps records of who comes and goes. It was nearly midnight when I found a shadowed corner near the staff lot fence. The cold bit through my coat, but I didn't move. At 11:45, the man from the footage stepped out of a side entrance, a medical cooler in one hand. He didn't look around, just walked straight to a plain white van. I raised my phone, snapped 3 quick photos, his face, the cooler, the license plate. If he was moving what I thought he was moving, Grandpa's danger wasn't theoretical anymore. The phone photos were still fresh on my screen when a shadow crossed my headlights. A tall man in a dark jacket stood in front of my car, badge glinting in the lot's dim light. Detective Mark Harper, he said, his voice steady but probing. You're the one poking around? That depends on who's asking, I replied. I've been chasing a trail of unexplained patient declines here for 6 months. That man you just photographed? I believe he's part of an organ trafficking ring. My breath caught. And my grandfather could be a target, Harper finished. But I can't move without evidence. You look like you can get it. I hesitated. If I give you what I have, you help me keep him alive. He nodded once. Deal. We compared details quickly, but when I showed him the photos, his expression tightened. Where are they? They're right. I stopped. The screen was blank. The images were gone. Harper didn't curse, didn't flinch. Then we catch him in the act. He stepped closer. Tomorrow night. 2:17 a.m. Be in the ICU hallway. Don't ask why that time, just be ready. The next night, the hospital felt like a different place, quieter, stripped of its daytime chaos. Shadows stretched long under the pale glow of fluorescent lights. I arrived early, walking the corridors, learning which doors latched and which ones stayed ajar if nudged. My heart thudded a slow, heavy rhythm. Harper was waiting in a small observation room tucked behind double doors. A single desk lamp threw half his face into shadow. He handed me a sleek black pen. Looks ordinary, but it's recording video and audio. Clip it where it can see straight ahead. Don't tap it, don't talk to it, just let it run. I clipped it to my jacket pocket, the tiny lens peeking out. We sat in silence for 15 minutes. Every footstep in the hall sounded like trouble coming too soon. At 2:16, Harper's eyes flicked to his watch. He nodded once. Showtime. We stepped into the corridor just as a gurney appeared, its wheels whispering against the tile. Nurse Dana pushed it steadily, her face calm, too calm. On the gurney lay a patient I didn't recognize, far too still, an IV bag swaying above them. Beside her walked the man from the parking lot, the same easy stride, the same cooler in his left hand. His scrubs were crisp, but his eyes kept darting to corners and doorways. Harper and I kept a distance, letting the pen camera drink in the scene. They reached a side door marked authorized personnel only. The man swiped a keycard. The lock clicked. Through the opening, I caught a glimpse. Stainless steel counters, labeled trays, a refrigeration unit humming in the back. My stomach turned. Harper stepped forward, but then the overhead lights flickered, replaced by a pulsing red glow. "Security override," he muttered. "They just locked this section down." Dana turned her head. Her eyes met mine, and there was no surprise in them. She knew exactly what I was doing. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice sharp enough to cut the air. The man's head snapped toward me, then toward Harper. In one motion, he dropped the cooler and bolted not toward the exit, but down the hall toward the ICU. Toward Grandpa. Adrenaline hit like a flood. I was running before my mind caught up. Shoes pounding the tile, the pen camera bouncing against my chest. I rounded the corner just as his shadow stretched across Grandpa's door. The hinges groaned as the ICU door swung wide. He was at Grandpa's bedside, syringe in hand, his grip quick and practiced. Before I could shout, Harper slammed into him from behind. The syringe clattered across the floor, spinning to a stop near my shoe. The man struggled, but Harper's weight kept him down. "Security!" he barked. 2 guards rushed in, another pair dragging Nurse Dana from the hallway. She didn't fight, didn't speak, just kept her eyes low, like someone who'd already decided the end was inevitable. I turned back to Grandpa. His eyelids fluttered. Weakly, his hand found mine. The squeeze was faint, but it was there. "You're safe," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if he could hear. The alarms faded into the background. For the first time in days, I let myself believe he might actually make it. By dawn, I was seated in a long hospital conference room, Harper at my side. Across from us sat the administrator, 2 detectives, and like a bitter aftertaste, Amanda, Gerald, and Linda. Dana and the man from the cooler were already in custody somewhere down the hall. Harper set the pen on the table, pressed a button, and let the footage roll. The small lens had caught everything. Dana pushing the gurney, the man swiping into the cold stainless steel room, the glimpse of trays and refrigeration units. Then, the takedown in the ICU. No one spoke. The administrator slid another file onto the table. "There's something you should know, Ms. Walker. Before his illness, your grandfather moved AMT 1.2 million into a secure trust under your name. His instructions were explicit: use it for his care, and no one else is to have access." Amanda's head snapped toward me so fast I heard the air shift. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Gerald's hands flexed against the table. Linda stared straight ahead, as if refusing to see the walls closing in. The administrator continued, his tone firm. "Effective immediately, their access to all family assets has been revoked." I signed the treatment authorization papers with a steady hand. My signature didn't shake. When I pushed them back across the table, I didn't bother to meet their eyes. They left without a word, Amanda trailing behind, pale and tight-lipped. Harper waited until the door closed. "You didn't just save him," he said quietly. "You helped bring down something bigger than you realize." When the room finally emptied, the silence felt strange after so much noise. I gathered the pen and the copies of the trust documents, the weight of them lighter now than when the night began. Grandpa's room was warm with early sunlight when I returned. The blinds let in soft lines of gold across his blanket. He was asleep, his breathing steady, each rise and fall of his chest a small miracle. I sat in the chair beside him, finally letting my shoulders relax. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about what Amanda, Gerald, and Linda had taken from me. I was thinking about what I'd fought to keep. And this time, they weren't going to touch it.